Hey y'all, we are here at the Young Republicans National Convention in Dallas, Texas. The energy is really high. I'm here with Senator Tan Parker, a good friend of the Texas Blockchain Council and of Innovation and Freedom. And Senator, we're coming off a session a couple months ago that was pretty chaotic. There was a lot going on. You had a great resolution that stated Texas's opposition to central bank digital currencies.
Absolutely.
And that sailed through the Senate. Things got kind of crazy and the House didn't have time to take it up. But tell the viewers what that bill was trying to communicate to DC.
Yeah, no, thank you, Lee, for the opportunity. And look, we recognize that in this world in which we live today, that it's vitally important when we have this discussion on CBDCs that's happening in Washington. We want to send a very clear message to all the Washington policymakers that we do not want a central bank digital currency in this country. Nothing, in my opinion, Lee, could be more dangerous to our economic future and the survival of this nation, to be very candid. And why do I say that? Well, because at the end of the day, the dollar is the reserve currency of the world, and it needs to be protected in every way. Yeah. And so I just think that this is a race to the bottom. I think this takes away liberty and freedom from American citizens. I think it is economically reckless. And I hope the Biden administration and the Democrats that are in charge of the United States Senate will recognize and put pressure on the administration not to allow this to go forward. It needs to stop in its tracks right now. I just think it would be absolutely horrific. I think it plays into the hands of our enemies. I think it plays into the hands of China. I think it plays in the hands of Russia and all of our enemies. And so I just hope that we will say no to a CBDC. That resolution that I passed with, I think, virtually unanimous support in the Texas Senate should have made it to the House. Like you said, time expired. I will certainly continue to fight this battle, but Washington policymakers need to hear that this would be absolutely horrific and destructive to the American financial system.
Couldn't agree more. You know, there's an interesting dichotomy here between the central bank digital currency that many people will reject on privacy and freedom grounds, and privately issued stable coins that are a representation of a US dollar, that lock a dollar up in a bank account somewhere. So we've talked about this before, but the thesis is, if you have all of these stable coins and 98% of them are backed by US dollars, you're actually creating more demand for dollars being stored away in central banks, which is where we want them, because then you're having increased demand globally for dollars, which prolongs the dollar as the world reserve currency. So there is a pathway here that if the central government could get their act together. Patrick McHenry, House Financial Services Chair, has a great bill on stablecoins that he has passed through with some Democratic support, some of the younger Democrats. The gentleman from the Bronx, his name is escaping right now, and several others have supported that bill, and Maxine Waters did not. And I think it's an age thing more than a partisan thing. But that bill is going to go to the Senate, and we'll see what the Senate does with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about this very different than what we're talking about with my concerns with CBDC.
Right.
And so, look, I think there's a lot of opportunity for the states to be creative. I really think at the end of the day that, the engine of opportunity and economic growth for this country is in the states. And so individual states taking some of these kind of unique approaches beyond the bill that you're referencing at the federal level and the US House right now, I think is very sound for us to talk about, because everything we do, we just have to recognize that we've got to be focused on protecting the dollar as a reserve currency.
Right.
And when we look at stable coins, it's really a totally different topic.
Yeah.
And one that is, like you said, helpful to the dollar, and one that should provide, as you said, greater demand for the dollar. So I think that's sound, good policy. I'm just saying everything that we do in this space, we have to be mindful about protecting America's hegemonic influence globally over the financial system. Not to mention the fact, as you said, that so many of my colleagues and friends and just wonderful patriots across the country are worried about the erosion of freedom.
Right.
And that needs to be also front and center in all the policy debate that we have.
And that's a clear distinction I think we need to make too. For the average listener that might hear stablecoin and central bank digital currency, they might think they're very similar. They're actually completely diametrically opposed.
That's exactly right. So they're two different things. Completely
separate. So the central bank digital currency being one that the government has full control over, programmable money in the hands of the Fed. Exactly. Which is a very scary thing. we've seen what happened with China when they did that.
I mean, it is absolutely following CBDCs, following the communist Chinese playbook to a T. And no thank you. It's the last thing we want. And we need to be passionate, and we need to fight and stand up. And so I think anybody that's hearing this today, I hope that you will reach out to your representatives in the United States Congress, both in the US Senate and the US House, and reach out to the administration as well and say no. Absolutely no. Nothing would be more dangerous to our economic survival as a people.
And this is really entering mainstream politics because the Biden administration is pushing forward studies, and the Boston Fed is studying CBDCs. This is going to be a topic in elections moving forward.
Look, I hope this will be a major topic of conversation looking at the presidential process in 24. I think it absolutely needs to be discussed at that level. It is essential to our future. So,
and not many elected officials have your depth of understanding of what this is and the nuances. So I think, you know, your colleagues in the Senate look to you on this, and I think the Texas congressional delegation need to look to you and your friends like Representative Briglione, who really have studied this for years.
Yes.
And some of them, it's the first time this has come across their desk, so they need to be calling up.
No, you're right. That's exactly right. And so, you know, we want to continue to message that, let people know that we're here as a resource to help give them any guidance on the topic. But, you know, every American needs to understand what's at stake. And the fact that the Federal Reserve right now is testing and playing around. I mean, they're playing with fire. We're playing with fire. And we need to absolutely shut this thing down on its tracks. The sooner the better. And you're right, we talk about Giovanni Capriglione. We, of course, have been talking about gold and gold bullion exchanges since about 2015, and we passed the gold bullion exchange here in Texas together. So could not agree with you more about the importance of this policy area and the need to educate more people, both elected individuals as well as, you know, the incredible citizens that we're blessed to represent.
Well, thank you for coming on to the show and having the conversation, for being here and sharing your thoughts with the next generation of leaders.
Well, there's nothing more important. We've got to get, if the future of our Republican Party, the future of the country, depends on a strong next generation of leadership. And so we've got to be involved in these things. Thankful to you and the Blockchain Council for your leadership, and as really educating so many more Americans, so many Texans, and folks across this country about the importance of these matters as well. So thank you for what you do and being here at the conference as well.
Yes, sir.